When they first said about the 2 metre rule, well, I felt it was fear. 3 metres has always been my minimum distance. Anything less it's predatory. Years ago, I used to go out to the cinema. It was great, matinees, unpeopled. But I stopped. I mean, they keep talking about loneliness. People can feel just as lonely together as they can apart, of course. At least the non-attached have a valid excuse. The last relationship I had, I cried into her light blue blouse, and although I was bereft, I was also fascinated at how dark my hot tears made the material. Perhaps I was born detached. My sister Cass, she wants to kill her husband while we're still in lockdown. Properly murder him. She's very serious about it. She bought a book about how to kill yourself, which incidentally is on the Times bestseller list. She's going to somehow frame him killing himself. And she thought that nobody would hugely investigate what with everything else that's going on. I said, Kaz, Mark is not suicidal. But people will say that to the police. Have you seen the shipping news? Of course, I refused to help her, and she said, well, I'm going to do it anyway, and she ran off. So I rang her up and I said, don't let that man put you in prison, Kaz. And she listened to that, and she turned up the next day with a shopping trolley with a steak knife and iron, and a hammer, and a litre of bleach, and she put it just out there, leaned it against the fence with the shovel. Take it, she said. And then she cried like a kid, just hot tears. I should have agreed. She wasn't going to do it anyway. She just needed to at least plan it with me. So, just digging the hole and the catharsis of it. He stamped all the joy out of my life, she said. And I used to go out. I used to have friends. Kaz is the only person who has visited me in all the years that I've been a recluse. I don't blame other people. All I talk about are films. Still, I'd rather hear about the plot of Cape Fear than about someone's gas bill or their shingles. Kaz has a permanent chair on the street outside. We just changed it to the fence because, people. And she sits there and she smokes and drinks vodka and Coke and tells me outrageous stories. I mean, she's really, really an eccentric, is Kaz. And I sit on the step and I listen. My neighbours, they sort of laughed at us. But of course, they're all at it now. I left work because it was impossible, really. Films saved my life. Actors unfolded me. Kirk Douglas, Bob Hoskins in The Long Good Friday, Harold Shand. The hospital is nearby, and the ambulances, they're always racing past, and the Chinooks that fly overhead. There's a lake opposite, ducks and swans. I live near the Alfred Hitchcock Hotel on the edge of Epping Forest. And I still love the trees just through the window there. But I did decide one night, I was listening to the Thursday clapping and the pots and the pans being played, and I cried. And I don't cry. Only at Mitchum's, the Friends of Eddie Coyle. But I looked out and I listened to the sounds of people. It was primitive, stirring, and I watched the red and blue lights of the ambulances on my walls, like some kind of strange dance of death. And I pulled myself up and I thought, if they can face and fight that every day, every night, then I can at least get dressed and force myself out. These are extraordinary times and call for courage. And the next day I did it. The light seemed bright and I was partially blinded, but I walked across the road, not many cars, super. I walked swiftly around the lake, and there was a lot of men running with their shirts off. Unnecessary, really. Blokey ponytails. And I'd improvised some pretty sturdy homemade PPE. I was 2001: A Space Odyssey / Blade Runner. I was Mad Max's deranged beekeeper mate. And then I saw her. Melancholy, of course, heart-stoppingly beautiful. And then I saw him. Fuck. I thought, she's worth 1,000 of Mr. Torso. But then I thought they just both had dogs, and which were getting a stick and a ball from the lake, and they were stood 2 meters apart. Of course, she saw me, and I could see that she was going to laugh, but she wasn't cruel, so she simply turned away. I just stared, which is fine because I was wearing sunglasses and a visor. Mr. Fit, he looks at me as though I was the man who fell to earth, and I wanted to say, it is a pandemic, running boy. But I had so many scarves on that I actually couldn't speak. And then he checked his phone and he ran off, rhythmically, predictably. I've got a stick, I've got a tiny stick. Nothing frightening. I wasn't Karloff on the Girl in the Daisy, and I threw it for her dog, and she smiled at me, and again she tried to laugh. The next day, I toned down the Wellingtons to trainers, and I had less headgear, and there she was, possibly to see running boy again, but I threw a stick for a dog, and I nodded. My neck was freer for movement, and within a week or two I got down to jeans and a t-shirt and trainers, and every day I would silently throw a stick for her dog, which would then plunge into the lake. Hi, I said on Sunday, and she said hi. So that felt equal. And on the Monday, I gave her an envelope, and in it was phantom thread, because she wore wonderful dresses, and I forgot to mention that. Different dress every day, and they look homemade, they're not bought. And then the next day, I shouted over her and I said, do you fancy breakfast? I'll have, and I listed the loads of things: Welsh rabbit, toast, jam, like Daniel Day-Lewis does to catch the waitress in the film. And she burst out laughing, maybe because I'm nothing like him. I was in flip-flops and shorts. But I stopped rehearsing things in my head, and I said, it's strange, isn't it, to be out here in the wind and the sunshine with the hospital being so near. And she nodded, and she looked at me like she might cry. So there's a tiny tea stall called the Log Cabin, which is still doing takeaway tea, and there's no way she'd come with me. We walked towards it. We were keeping a good 3 meters apart. Perfect. And then suddenly she was closer, like 2 meters. I mean, I would normally scream, no, fuck off. But I clawed on the thigh, and I breathed deep. It's hard, isn't it, she said, with the rhythm and the weather of these days. And we drank tea standing up, police tape on the benches, as though we kill people. We were Bonnie and Clyde waiting to be arrested. What are you doing with your time? Are you working? I said. That's a nice, normal question. I've been furloughed and I watch films and I walk. And you? Well, I watch films. I've just started to walk. I fucking hate these joggers. It just came out. It's like bile. I fucking hate them too, she said, spitting and displaying themselves. And I nodded. I couldn't laugh. Not yet. My laugh's quite loud. And she smiled. And she blew on her tea.